Hey everybody, Tim here, coming at you live for another review. So this is my first non-Star Trek review that I'm doing for the group, kind of. But it is one of my favorite movies, like, of all time. So I felt it was important to do a review of this. To kind of explain why I'm doing this, in 2013, there was a Star Trek convention in LA. I've never been to a Star Trek convention, so one of these days, that's like a future goal of mine to go. So anyways, at this LA Star Trek convention in 2013, they did a voting for all 12 of the best or to rank the 12 Star Trek movies that were out at the time. Wrath of Khan came in first place, and Star Trek Into Darkness came in 13th place. Now, that's kind of important, because there's only 12 movies, so how did it come into 13th place? Coming in and 7th place, because it was written in to the voting ballot, was Galaxy Quest. It's such a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies. So I just felt like it was important before, because we just finished the Next Generation reviews, and we're going into the Deep Space Nine reviews, and this just kind of felt like the right moment to kind of do this review, because it's so great. And I'm sure, being in a geek group, a lot of you guys have seen this, so I'm super excited to see what your comments are. Now, what makes this movie so awesome is probably just the cast. Because we got Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, the late, great Alan Rickman, Tony Shalhoub, like just before he did Monk. And then a pretty young Sam Rockwell. I mean, he had probably been established by this point, but it was great. It starts out, and this is like the borderline between like parody and satire, and it's just such a great movie. I think you should sell me that Harley Quinn and a Joker pick on the bottom. That one? Because I just bought that from the cosplayers. It just threw me off. So what you can tell from a very opening scene where they're doing the show, and it's all the cliches where Tim Allen is clearly acting like Kirk. You got the little kid at the helm, which is supposed to kind of be like Wesley. And then, the second in command is mimicking Spock. And I mean, who's better than Alan Rickman? It's like the last line, or one of the last lines in the movie, where he's like, everybody give him a hand, he's British. And it's like, because it kind of combines like Spock and Patrick Stewart. I'm just gonna keep coughing. So a lot of this movie was actually written based on the behind the scenes of Star Trek. Because like there's at one point where Alan Rickman and Tim Allen are like yelling at each other, and he's like, you stole all the best lines, and like that is stuff that has been proven about William Shatner, that he would have them do retakes of scenes just to have them give him more screen time, or to rewrite dialogue just so he could get the better dialogue in episodes. And so it's really interesting to kind of watch Kirk. Did you post a picture? So it's kind of interesting to watch. So it's kind of interesting to watch Kirk, or I'm sorry, to watch Tim Allen like be that personification of all of the cliches for William Shatner. So sorry, I just got distracted. So on top of that, we got, and then there's the other lines where, like, at one point Tim Allen's shirt gets ripped off, and Alan Rickman even says, like, "Oh, I see you got to remove your shirt." Which, how many scenes in the original series do they just rip William Shatner's shirts? There's even one episode that I remember where Bones has to give him like a hypo spray, and he just rips the sleeve off of his shirt just to do it. So it's just really weird. So, this also has some amazing film debuts. Like, we see Justin Long, who's super adorable, like, just so young and so amazing. This is, like, pre-Jeepers Creepers Justin Long. It's also Rainn Wilson's debut. So this is long before The Office, and now he's even in Star Trek Discovery. He plays Harry Mudd. So it's kind of amazing. Like, this is making fun of the past, but it's also kind of predicting the future. So I really like that. I got distracted. So also the scene where Tim Allen goes into the bathroom and he just kind of goes in the stall, and then everybody's like kind of ragging on him at the urinals, and they're just like his like co-stars hate him and he doesn't even get it. And so if you guys have read William Shatner's biography, like evidently that's an actual thing that happened to William Shatner in like 1986, which I should have looked that up. That's definitely, I think after the fourth movie. I think that was right around the fifth movie. Which it's no secret, like he was having problems with Leonard Nimoy. At this point, like him and George Takei were not even talking. So it kind of makes sense. And that was like Shatner's awakening moment. And so, like I said, I love how they studied all of this stuff that was going on behind the scenes and then brought it and basically just put it into a movie. And then the part that kind of hurt me in that scene is that like you got all these nerds begging autographs for $15 a pop. Okay, this movie came out in 1999. Like, I just went to a convention earlier this year, and, like, most of these people are, like, $100 a pop now. So it's a little disappointing. So we meet oh, God, I suck at names. You guys know I suck at names. So I don't even know how to pronounce the aliens' names. The Thermians? Something like that? We meet them, and this is where the show gets real. So I don't remember this. I did see this movie in theater as a kid, but I don't remember it until I was reading about it. That the film was shown in like one perspective, and then when they got on board the ship and like Tim Allen realizes that this is actually real, it extended to a full screen. So if you guys remember that, let me know, because I have zero memory of that. But it's some great scenes where he's finally on board. They bring the rest of them on board. And then just talking about how... Sorry, I'm trying to go through my notes and reading what you guys are saying. Thinking... Oh, and them talking to the aliens about like, oh, you thought the show was real. Like, how do you think these historical documents were real? They're just for entertainment. Like, clearly you don't think Gilligan's Island was real. And then they just get so sad because they think about those poor people on the island. One of the best scenes of this movie, but it doesn't really make sense to me, and I think it was kind of purposely done that way if you watch it really close, is when they finally leave the space dock and they're just scratching the side of the ship, of the Protector. And so you watch it scratch all the way down, and then it cuts to the Protector flying out. Okay, so the way the Protector is laid out is you have like the main bridge, and then it extends out. So I don't get... If he was like scratching it, he would have just been ripping off like half the ship. I guess it could have been angled, but yeah, no, that whole scene kind of bothered me a little bit. Yeah, see, it's an impossible scratch. Like, it didn't make sense. And I think they knew that, which is why it just cuts to it, like, flying out really, really quick, is to kind of avoid them realizing that. I love how you guys are just popping up with how much you guys like Galaxy Quest. That's a great movie. And as dark as Deep Space Nine is, I needed something light to get me ready into there. One of the best scenes is, so they talk about how they studied all of these historical documents and how they like programmed all of the food and stuff. And you see Alan Rickman eating what looks a lot like gok, the Klingon food. That's what it's called. And it's basically just worms, and that's what Alan Rickman's food kind of looks like. And then just another dig at William Shatner, where Tim Allen's eating a steak, and he's like, this is like corn-fed Iowa beef. Iowa's where Kirk was born. Sorry, I'm just reading like my notes, and it's basically just lines from the movie, and it just makes me laugh, because that's how great this movie is. It follows the typical like Star Trek plots where now the beryllium spheres are cracked and they need a new one, which is basically the like dilithium crystals. What are you doing? There's my dog, Little Bear. And this is probably the best scene in the whole movie, and I quote this scene without any context, where they land on the planet and Tony Shalhoub just opens the door and Sam Rockwell loses his shit. And he's like, what are you doing? Is there air? You don't know. And he just goes like, seems okay. Like, Tony Shalhoub is such a great actor. Everything about him in this movie is so great. Like, I didn't talk about it, but like when they first get on board the ship and he's just like, the floors are so clean. And it's just, he's such a great actor. And then my favorite line, I don't know, it's not even probably the best line, but my favorite line of this whole movie that I've always quoted is when they get to the mines for the beryllium sphere. And it's it's Tony Shalhoub and Alan Rickman, and he's like, "Do you think those are the miners?" Well, yeah, they have to be like 3 years old. Miners, not miners, you idiot. Like, I had to pause the movie. I've seen this movie at least a dozen times, and I had to pause it again because it's such a great delivery that only Alan Rickman could really give. Like, I can't imagine this movie in any other way with a different cast. Like, everybody is so perfect in their individual roles. Even Sigourney Weaver, where, I mean, she's basically a horror where all she does is quote the computer. And they even say, like, or she gets frustrated in the movie where it's like, "Oh, what's wrong with the beryllium sphere? It is broken. Captain, the beryllium sphere is broken." "Yeah, I heard it. This is my role on the ship. Don't take it away from me." Like, Sigourney Weaver's just so great. I can't imagine this movie with any other cast members. So during the mines, they fight the giant rock monsters, which is kind of cool. And again, that's a shout out to the fifth movie, The Final Frontier, when they were going after Cybok. William Shatner had originally envisioned these giant rock monsters to kind of like attack, but for budget reasons and stuff like that, they couldn't do it, so they ended up cutting it out. So, I mean, William Shatner's parody ends up getting his rock monsters. I can't even keep up with you guys. You guys are popping up so much. I don't know. Let's see. Rock monsters. And this is also the scene where he gets his shirt taken off, just like all the big battle scenes. And this is where it gets a little, like, sad, because Saris finally comes up, and he's basically conquered the crew, and he's, like, trying to get Tim Allen to explain it, and he tries to explain, like, what an actor is, and he's like, no, you have to explain it like a child. And then he gets a hold of Brandon, who's such a great character. Like I said, Justin Long is so perfect in this role. And he's like, "No, I know it's a TV show. I know, I get it. It's fine. No, Brandon, it's real. I knew it." Like, it's great. I mean, how awesome would it be for any, like, of the Star Trek fans to just magically get beamed aboard? So he kind of just won the lottery, but it's cool. And one of my favorite scenes that I didn't catch until as an adult, like I said, I've seen this movie at least a dozen times, so I already read this trivia fact, but it's fun, is when they're going through the ship being navigated by Brandon, and they get to the chompers, and Sigourney Weaver looks at him, and she clearly says, "Well, fuck that." But they changed it to "forget," but, like, her mouth, like, doesn't change. Like, you can clearly say that that's not what she's saying. And rumor has it that this movie was actually supposed to be a very dark, gritty, rated R movie. But then they said to forget it, or fuck that, and change it to, like, a PG-13 comedy. Now, Tony Shalhoub has said, like, there was never a dark version of this, but I don't really know. I think it would have been interesting to see what they could have done with it, but personally, I think it works as a comedy, because we need more comedies in the world. Of course, they push the button, they stop the self-destruct, everything's safe, until Tony Shalhoub comes up and starts killing everybody. He ends up being Saris, and it's very like the opening scene to The Wrath of Khan with the Kobayashi Maru, and you just start seeing all of these cast members that you know just murdered in front of you. And it's kind of interesting, because at least that's what it reminded me of. Maybe because it was so like ingrained in my head because I just watched it. So Brian, I know I saw this in theaters, but I don't remember it. So, but as an adult watching, like, the DVDs and stuff, I always saw her say "fuck it," but always heard "forget it." But that's kind of interesting that you remember hearing it as "fuck it" in the theaters, because they could have said it. They said PG-13 movies have been able to say the word "fuck," and that would have made sense if they did do it. I mean, sometimes, depending on, like, oh, this was 1999. I mean, earlier than this, you could say it more than once. Like, what is it? Adventures in Babysitting, where they say "fuck" twice. You don't fuck with the Lords of Hell. But anyways, so Saris kills everybody. They use the time travel thing, which is, of course, a great Star Trek like plot line to go back 13 seconds. I kind of wish it had been 47 seconds. Like, I realize that's a much longer amount of time, but if it had been 47 seconds, you would have just had that Star Trek reference just one more time on top of it. So they stop Saris, they crash land, everything's good. There's the great scene. Every scene in this movie is great. I'm sorry, I can't like pinpoint specific ones. But where they crash the ship and they start walking out, and the announcer's like, well, here's this person, and he just like is doing his job. Like, I don't know if they're supposed to be doing this or not, but here we go. And this is where the line where it's like, hey, give him a hand, he's British. And it's like, oh, okay, well, and that's Alan Rickman. And then finally the last dig that I never really caught before was, so they do Galaxy Quest, the journey continues. And they even say, like, now back after 18 years, and they redo the show. And it's kind of a touching moment. I didn't realize this because I suck at math, that it was 18 years between 1969 and 1987. So between Star Trek and The Next Generation. And so it's now 18 years between Galaxy Quest and Galaxy Quest Continues. Or The Journey Continues. So there's been like always rumors that they were going to do a sequel, and then the tragic passing of Alan Rickman, they like axed all of those plans. Personally, I would totally be down for a sequel. I think they could even try to work in Alan Rickman's death somehow. Like maybe that's why they all got back together or something. I don't know. I feel like this movie was so good, and then they just never did anything with it. And some people say that's okay. Some people say sequels ruin movies. And I completely agree that that does happen. But for me, I feel like this one really needed a sequel. Especially if they really wanted to keep pushing the Star Trek references. Like this whole movie is Star Trek and The Next Generation. They should have done like a spin-off of like Galaxy Quest Space Station or just something like that, and clearly have it based on like Deep Space Nine. And realistically, they could have done that without even any of the cast members like coming back. They could have just had it as that thing, and maybe like Tim Allen has the cameo role of like Patrick Stewart or something. So I don't know. I think that's it. That's about all I have for my notes. So thank you guys for everything. I'm glad you guys like this movie. Like I said, I was super happy to do this movie, just because it's been a long trek through Star Trek. I finished The Next Generation. I finished those movies, and now later tonight, it's about 3 o'clock right now where I'm at. So sometime later tonight, I will be doing The Emissary live. And then basically just go back on schedule with just doing episodes of Deep Space Nine. So I'm super excited because, like I said, I needed this little tiny break of something fun and fluffy before I get into the dark and gritty of Deep Space Nine. Because by the end of that series, I'm just going to be like this broken down guy. And like every episode is just going to be like me crying. So for those who have seen this movie, which clearly a lot of you have, because you guys are just blowing up the comments, maybe I should do my live videos earlier, because I mean, a lot of you have pointed that out, and I'm like, no, like I'm a night owl. I do like it's almost 3 o'clock in the evening where I'm at. I just woke up like an hour ago. Like that's why I'm still kind of tired. So you guys are still like distracting me. So for those who have seen this movie, go ahead, keep popping up. What do you guys think about this movie? Did you think it was like a love letter to Star Trek, or did you think it was an insult? Did you think it's funny, or would you have rather have seen the serious, dark movie? A lot of people have compared this movie to Orville, so as long as we can be like respectful, go ahead, let me know what you think about that. Go ahead, let me know what some of your favorite lines are. Like, I've quoted all of my favorite lines, but what do you guys really like about this? And then again, most of all, what would you guys still want a sequel without Alan Rickman? I mean, this movie came out in 1999, so it's been 20 years at this point. So would you guys still be interested in that, or do you think that it's done? Like, we just got to let it go. It's a great movie by itself, and don't touch it again. So go ahead, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for everything. You guys are so awesome. I love all of your comments. I love you guys that are actually messaging me. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I appreciate the friend requests. I probably have like 200 sitting in my queue right now. If you guys don't message me, I just ignore them, just to be honest with you. I don't even look at it. But I do check my messages every day. So thank you guys for the messages. Thank you guys for the comments, the likes. Thank you guys that have done the YouTube subscriptions. I super appreciate that. That just rocks my world. I'll be honest with you, I'm like a good chunk into Deep Space Nine already. I'm going to do the Emissary pilot live, and then on my YouTube, I'm going to upload like 6 episodes all at once. So if you guys ever want to get ahead of the game to just see the videos, that's where you got to go, because I really appreciate it. And sometimes I just do episodes on YouTube and I don't post them on the Facebook. Oh, by Grabstorm's hammer, you shall be avenged. So thank you guys for everything. I appreciate all of you. And for those who don't watch Star Trek but watched this review for Galaxy Quest because it's that awesome, I super appreciate that as well. So I will see you guys later tonight. It's 3 o'clock. I don't like to do videos more than 6 hours together because I like to keep them spaced out, because I'm terrified that you guys are gonna just say like, he's spamming the group, and that's my biggest fear. Like, and I've had people say that already, and I'm like, dude, I post like 2 videos a day. So it's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So probably like 9 o'clock p.m. So about 6 hours from now, I will do the Emissary live. So thank you guys for everything. You guys are all awesome, and I will see you guys later.